Hi, welcome back to Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. I know it's been a long time since you guys haven't seen me on this channel, but before we start this video, this is my dad. I'm back with my dad again. You guys might remember him from my Facing Your Fears video, and that was what, 2 years ago?
Oh yeah,
Almost 2 years ago that I made that video before leaving for Africa. I have gone to Africa, had my experience, came back. It's been a year and a half now, and this is when I'm doing the video of my return and what I've learned and whether or not I took the advice that my dad gave me to go on my journey. Yeah. So without further ado, we are gonna start and have a discussion about that right now after intro. Sun is shining,
the weather is sweet. Gab, I'm happy that you listen to your dad and then you follow, all the advice, that I gave to you before you left for that experience in Africa. And then we visited you also when you were there, and it was a wonderful trip when we went to Kenya. That time, it was in December, I think it was in December 2017. We spent like a month there, and when we came back it was in January. So give us, we know what was the experience, but tell the people how was the experience for you.
Well, for me, like you guys saw, and like we had the discussion, that video, Facing Your Fears, I was very scared. I knew that there was something that I wanted to do for a very long time. Back in March 2017, I applied to go back to Kenya to the school that I attended for high school to become an assistant girls dean. I got the acceptance letter in May 2017, and I was very excited because it was something that that's a step that I really wanted to take. I wanted to go to Africa and go back because we did grow up there. We grew up in Congo when you guys worked for ADRA. So I wanted to go back as an adult and experience it for myself.
And when you say you grew up there, because you have to explain, to the people what really happened, because
Okay, so my parents worked for an NGO called ADRA, and while they did work for that NGO, my sister and I grew up in boarding school, so I wanted to go back and give back in that aspect, and also have my own experience on the continent. So I got the acceptance letter in May 2017 for me to go and serve in that capacity on the continent, and everything was fine until I bought my ticket and started speaking to people about me going, and then the fear started coming in, where I felt as if I couldn't go. But because I had bought my ticket already, it was already set in stone, everything was being done. And while I was scared of going, I was still taking the steps. I was going and taking my passport pictures, getting my visa, doing all these things, but I was still scared of the step that I was taking, even though I knew that this was a good step. But then all these fears started coming to my mind. What if while I'm there something happens to me? What if while I'm, my flight crashes? I don't know, what if the plane crashes? All these fears started coming into my mind. What if I, don't succeed in what I'm doing? But I still continued going forward and moving forward into taking that step, even if I was scared. And when we made that video, it was the night before I was leaving to go to Africa, and I remember that day I cried the whole day. I was making myself have, I guess, a panic attack, because I was just thinking about all these things that could happen, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make it? What if my plane crashes? And then that's when we made that video, and after that video I felt a lot better.
I remember before you left, I spoke to someone at work who is an African. He's not from Kenya, but he lived in Kenya for some time. And then he told me, actually I forgot that there would be an election in Kenya. And then because of the previous election that was a nightmare for many of the people who live in Kenya. The election in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was that fear that something would happen again. And when the guy told me, I said, no, I think if my daughter decided to go, I will not stop her from going, because even if there's something, and then it should be, there should be some control, and people are living there, millions of people living in Kenya, so why should something happen to my daughter because she's traveling there? There's no flight cancellation, so there's no need to cancel your trip because of an election. And then that's what I said, as a father, some people would think that it's irresponsible for a father to take that decision, for to encourage his daughter to do something like that, because we live in Africa. We know how fragile is the continent when it comes to elections. So I think people need to do what they like to do, and also they need to let fear behind them. They need to also not to let fear guide them. As I said in the previous video before you left, we need to have some kind of fear, but fear shouldn't be take over our life. I would say, And then while you were there, what kind of experience you did that you didn't do when you attended school there before? What has changed you for the best, for the better, I would say?
I think while being there, I also found that actually when I landed, or even throughout the whole journey, I don't know, as soon as I got to the airport, it's like all the whole fear of everything like left my body. I went into the plane, the first plane landed, second plane landed, third plane landed, finally in Kenya. And as soon as I got there, I felt at home in a way, because the person that picked me up was one of the drivers that used to drop us off at the airport and pick us up from the airport when I was in school there. So I didn't feel, as soon as I got to that place, it's almost like I put on a new mindset where it was, okay, you're here now, you can't have fear anymore, you can't be scared, this is it, you have to do what you have to do while you're here for a purpose, you need to do what you need to do. And it's like, it's almost like I put on a new mindset right away, and that's the mindset that I carried with me throughout the whole 10 months. I think naturally other people would say, oh, I miss home, I want to go home, I miss my family, my life back home. But I think for me, I realized this is where I am. If I start thinking back, oh, I miss home, I want to go home, I'm going to be miserable for 10 months, and 10 months is a long time. So I had to put on a different face, and that really helped me. I had a great time. I went there, I met some new people, I got out of my comfort zone a little bit more too, and I think that's where that also allowed me to stand on my own 2 feet, because before I would always find somebody that I knew in the room, or somebody that I knew in a setting, to kind of be my crutch to go somewhere. For example, if I know I want to go to, I don't know, church or to the mall or anywhere, I find somebody that I know to be my crutch to go with me. That way, I'm not left alone. But going by myself, I knew that I was accountable for myself, and I was doing things for myself, and it allowed me to really stand on my own 2 feet and know that I'm here. Whatever I do, it's me and me. I'm not there with anybody. I didn't go there with anybody, and I'm leaving with nobody either. So I knew that I had to put on a different, yeah.
What was your best experience? If you have something to remember, what is that?
My best experience, because I went there as an assistant girls dean, my best experience was seeing how I positively influence the girls, being a part of making their year, for many of them, a good, positive one, and also not going there with, because I was a student there, I knew how the students were thinking. I knew what they needed, what things were missing, and then I also used all my experience from working here in Canada, also with helping them out and being more of a big sister rather than being very like authoritative towards them. Making sure that they were still following the rules and guidelines of the school and policies, but also not really making sure that they also I gave them the choice to make their own decisions, just like being a positive influence, just whatever that means. But yeah, that was the biggest highlight, and also visiting the many different places, or taking the matatus and just matatus, for those of you that don't know, is just a public transport in Kenya. It's like a bus. It's like a mini bus that they use. But doing that, and also making new friends, just not going there as a tourist and just mingling with the locals. Everything. I think the whole 10 months there was just a highlight for me. I can't think of any specific things now, but the whole time was just good.
I know, when you travel, any experience you have in life, they are good and bad. So, did you have any bad experience while you were there? Anything that you regret?
I was there with a girl that I met there. We had an experience where we took a matatu, and we weren't supposed to take that specific one because it was not a matatu. It was just a school bus that the driver was using to make money. But the experience that we had there was, they ended up taking us down a road that was not the usual transit road. And I think that it was a miracle that we got out of that situation unharmed. And I think it was God's protection and angels that were looking over us. But that was something, just for me, like not listening to yourself when you know something is not right, but then you still go and do it. I think that's a one regret, and that I still remember till now. But yeah, just always listen to yourself when you feel something's not right. Not that something bad will happen all the time, but it can be a lesson for you to learn from. But yeah, that was something that I wish we hadn't done, even though something bad didn't happen, but something bad could have happened. We don't know, but.
So you were stressed out when that happened? You were in that situation when you were in the bus?
Actually, it wasn't the best decision, but for some reason, while we were in the bus, no. I remember feeling very calm, knowing that we shouldn't have come in, but I was still very calm. I wasn't stressed because I knew that we would get out safely.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was still a regret that we shouldn't have taken.
If you have an advice to give, because after that experience, you I think you should have some kind of, you know, advice to give to any young person who is watching that video now, who would like to travel. Maybe we can even post that previous video for someone who didn't see the first one before
Yeah.
you travel.
Yeah.
So we can put that together, you know, they can click on the link and see, you know, the first video. So if you have an advice to give, what would be the advice to a young person who is in a situation undecisive place where that person doesn't know what to do or has some fear to move on to, you know, to have an experience?
Right. I think the number one thing is, I heard this somewhere recently, but the number one thing is to know your why you want to do what you're doing. Once you know why you want to do it, if there's more pros than cons, then go ahead and do it. And if you're undecisive, you don't know what to do, then just go and do it. Especially if you have a good reason and you have a good intention behind it, but you're still unsure, then for me, it's always do it anyway, even if you're unsure. But if you know that you're doing it for a good cause and you have good intentions, then you should definitely do it. And also get out of your comfort zone. Remember that, you know, whatever you want to do, especially traveling, you're always going to have somebody who comes and tells you, well, is this a good idea? Do you think you really need to do it? There's always going to be somebody. And especially if you're indecisive, that can put a fear into you. You might say, oh, well, they're probably right. Maybe I shouldn't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to do this, but they're saying this. Maybe they're right. You know, you have to understand that everybody is different. Everybody has different things that they need to accomplish in life. If that seed was planted into your heart to go and do something, such as traveling to another country, you know, go ahead and do it. Take the steps, even if you're scared. But just, like you said, don't let fear drive you. But at the same time, you can let fear drive you to do good. You're scared, but you're still going. You're still taking the steps, and then until you do it. And also, one thing that you and Mom have always told me is, do something, make a decision, and then put God in the decision. Go forward with God. And at the end, if it wasn't the right decision, then you learn from it, and you can have a lesson for somebody else too. But at least you know at that moment you're doing it. You put God in the decision, you put God, and you move forward with God. And at the end, you just know that you have a lesson.
So if you have to rate your experience, would you say it's a success or it's a failure? What would you know?
If I have to rate my experience in Africa, I would say it was a success. I think that if I had stayed here, I think my life would be a lot different now. I think that there's certain things that I wouldn't, like now, the decisions that I make now, I wouldn't make them. I think that also the steps that I want to take, the life that I see myself in, I would be scared to go towards that life, because if I hadn't taken the step to go to Africa, even if I was scared on my own.
So now, after that experience, so you think, do you think you are prepared now to take other steps in your life, like other challenges in your life? Do you have anything in mind for the next year or?
Yeah, I think with that step, every time now that I'm scared of doing something, I remember back to my fear. And then I always think, okay, is this gonna benefit me in any way? What am I scared of? Is this a relevant fear? Is this something that's like a truth? or is it something that I'm making up in my mind? And if I see it's something that I'm making up in my mind, then I go ahead and I take that decision, even if I'm not sure where it's going to end up. For example, my positions at work, switching positions, you always have doubts that, oh, maybe this is not for me, maybe I'm not qualified, I don't know what I'm doing, other people know what they're doing more, but that's just you talking to yourself. Because if you can be offered a position, or if you can be, if something can present itself in front of you, it's because you're aligned,
mm-hmm.
and then you can do it. But your self-doubt is what is keeping you from taking
mm-hmm.
the steps. So now I think that anything that presents itself in front of me, obviously I'm going to have a doubt. But I always remember that, things don't present itself in front of you for nothing. You need to
mm-hmm.
present it to God and look deep within yourself if you're aligned for that. And if, you're never going to be ready for something, you need to, because you've never done it, so of course you're not going to be ready for it.
Even when you are hired for the first time in a position, they have to train you. So no need to have fear. I think in everything, in life, the risk is worth taking. So there's no need to be driven
mm-hmm.
by fear or doubt. Life is a journey. We didn't ask the Creator to put us on this planet. So if He put us on this planet, there's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we just enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know, when we were coming on this planet. We don't know when we are going, so there is no need to be afraid of anything. As long as we follow the rules, we use the right formulas mm-hmm. to do things, we don't need to be afraid of anything. That's my advice. But it's easy to say. It's easy to say sometimes, but when it comes to apply what we say, mm-hmm. that's when it's difficult. Mm-hmm. But it's always good to repeat it in your mind all the time in order to be able to apply it in your daily life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk about we talk about the advice. So before we wrap up, mm-hmm. so what you gonna tell? What else you want to add in to tell the public, the viewers?
Another thing I want to tell you guys is just travel to Africa. No matter, people say it's scary or whatever you hear about Africa, it's not necessarily true. There's some things that are true. There are some places that are, villages, and you can't access them easily, but for the most part, it's a very good place. Anything that you find here, you can find there. If you're scared that it might be totally different, it's not. You're gonna have a good experience. The locals are very nice, and just go to as many countries as possible. It's expensive, but it's worth it.
I said we are going to wrap up, but something has come to my mind. Is there anything that you regret that you didn't do? So maybe that thing I should have done when I was there. Something that I miss, or is there anything like that?
Yeah, I really wish that I had because I spent 4 years in Kenya before and I didn't learn the language. Mm-hmm. I wish that I had learned the language this time around, or at least because I wasn't a student, so I had time to actually converse with the locals a little bit more. So I wish I had done that. I think another thing too, I wish I had really documented mm-hmm. my trip a lot more. I also wish that I had gone to a lot more of the neighboring countries as well. It wasn't easy, but it could have been done one way or another, and yeah, just using my platform or using my talents a little bit more. I think even if I went there and I let my fear bring me there and I stepped out of my comfort zone, but I think that I could have stepped out even more while I was there.
Yeah. Anyway, we will continue to advise you and advise your viewers, if they want to do some great experience, don't let fear, overcome them. And I thank you, Gab, for listening to, and also you follow the principles. And then now I think you are ready for other great experiences, if we can say it like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dad. Also, you and Mom for giving me the advice as well. And yeah, they help also in me making my own decisions. Give me something to think about. So thank you as well. And thank you guys also for watching this video. I hope you guys learned something from it. I will have my dad on my channel a lot more with other topics that we'll talk about. As you can see, he has great wisdom as well, and he has a lot to say. So we will be back with more videos. Thank you for watching.